What is your beauty philosophy and what is your aging philosophy?
Honestly, it's going to sound cliche, but when it comes to beauty and aging, it's really all about being the best that you can be at the stage of life that you're at. And I think when you're fighting the aging process and really trying to turn back time and really trying to fight gravity and fight what's happening, we can all end up looking distorted and all end up looking how we do not want to end up looking. And so for me, it really truly is, and I say this a lot, and I feel like it sounds cliche, but people don't know me, so I guess it doesn't sound cliche to them. But subtle is dramatic, and subtle can be dramatic. And it's about finding that perfect like subtlety for your face while still allowing for certain things that are not perfect to be present. So you can just age into your face and age in a way that is seamless, if that makes sense. So that's truly how I think of like the beauty and the aging process. And it's not about trying to get lips that don't fit your face or get a jawline or get cheeks or get, it's about really embracing who you are and your best assets and really focusing on those things.
I feel like there are definitely different aesthetics in like New York versus LA
Yeah.
and even Miami
Oh,
and
yeah.
other major
Oh, yeah.
cities and different countries.
Yeah.
But I did notice that when we were just talking about how I had to stop getting Botox, my listeners are like, we know, been talking about it nonstop. But I went to see my friend, Dr. Ben Talley. I don't know if you know him.
I don't know him. I've heard of him, but I don't know him.
And I was like, I don't know. I'm just like, I have these lines and I don't know what to do. And he said, you actually look younger because it's when people try to completely freeze their face,
They look crazy.
they look uncanny and they look older because younger people have expression. They have lines. Their skin just bounces back. They're dynamic lines. They're not static. So like a telltale sign of aging is like completely freezing your face. It's kind of counterintuitive. But that is so many people's approach. Although I feel like the pendulum is swinging a little bit. I don't know if you've noticed that.
Oh no, I have noticed it. And I think it has to do with social and I think it has to do with people going balls to walls like crazy. But back too quickly about location, I used to always joke and maybe it should be Miami versus New York versus LA, but that like New York is like Armani and LA and Miami are Versace.
Yeah.
And it's like two completely separate worlds that people are living in. And I remember I was in LA in 2017 before I had my daughter. And I show up and I was like, oh my God, these people's lips are insane. But by day 7, I looked at my husband. I was like, do you think I should inject my lip? He was like, are you insane? Like, we got to leave. So you can see how your perception of reality shifts depending on your own environment.
Yeah.
And that's the very scary thing. But absolutely, it's the imperfections that make something look good. And when you chase every line, and I think there's a subset of people who think they have to get every line as it forms. And there's a little bit of an OCD tendency in those personalities that they think they'll look really good as they age. But if you chase every single line as it forms, to Dr. Talley's point, you're going to look weird. And so it's about having some movement, having some things that are off, some imperfections so that you can maintain your own charm and your own natural ethos, right? But the pendulum, I do think, is swinging. And I think it's because people took it too far. And I think LA is one place where people took it too far and they started at a very young age. And there's this whole, discussion of filler migration. And I'm like, is it filler migration or is it filler diffusion? And is it because you're starting at such a young age where you're not actively aging as fast and people are just getting it like paint by number fillers injected in their face, that they're not thinking of the person's face and how that face is aging over time, that filler is just sitting and sticking. And over time, they start looking swollen and global and Cushingoid in a sense, and it looks off. And so I think people started seeing it more and more. And because of social and having a track record of how your face is evolving, it became much more evident. And so now the pendulum is swinging, but it can't swing in the opposite direction either to like nothingness. And people are going to roll their eyes and say, of course, she's going to say that. She's a cosmetic dermatologist. But I really do focus on the mental well-being of the patient. And as you age and you face the aging process, my grandmother who passed away this year said it best. It's like, do you want to wear an iron shirt or do you want to wear a wrinkled shirt every day? And how do you feel in each? And if you feel better in a certain shirt, you probably feel better with your face being a certain way, but it should be approached in a very moderate way and like a body positive way and not in either end of the extreme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with so much that you said there. And I love what your grandmother
Yeah,
said as well. That's such a
yeah.
great analogy. But I feel like we really are influenced by our environment, even subconsciously, because I know for myself, like I come to New York and suddenly I'm less aware of these like perceived imperfections that I can notice more when I'm in LA or even if I'm in Europe, like Europe has a completely different aesthetic in so many places there. I say Europe like it's a country, but like a lot of countries in Europe, their approach to aging and beauty is very different. And you see a lot of expression, a lot of aging, and they look beautiful and, they own it. And also what you were saying about like social media, I remember when Instagram stories came out, that was the first time I had seen my face in action. I was like before I was on video on the podcast, and I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
And I got a brow lift like not long after that came out because I had really low brows, hooded eyelids, which I always liked until it got to a certain point. I was like 35, maybe at the time, 34. And I was like, I look so tired. Like, why do I look tired and sad all the time? But had I not had that reflection of myself, I maybe would not have noticed it when I did. So, like, all of these things are really influencing our perceptions of ourselves.